Right, so this is our main comp. So we kind of recreated our beauty. Maybe we could say we want to change some stuff. So maybe we want to change the saturation on our subsurface gathering a bit. It kind of looks quite nice. And let's go over here. Let's put a color correct. Right, now we could do some, could change the colors a little bit. Maybe what I want to do, I want to add some glows, maybe. So let's say glow. So this will be glowy way too much, but let's say we want a mask. So we want this area on here to glow a little bit. So let's make it a soft edge. And then we could say that we wanted to glow a little bit more. All right, and let's do another glow. And let's put another mask. Soft edge. Put it maybe more on there and with a lot less intensity. All right. Something like that. Now I will add some chromatic aberration. So if you don't know what chromatic aberration is, it's basically sort of a lens thing that happens if you don't have a perfect lens. It's like sort of colors that sort of offset. You can see it's like this type of effect, this type of effect. So when you're filming something, you want to sort of, it's like when light, as you can see here, when light doesn't focus perfectly, it sort of splits the RGB channels. So you generally, when you're filming something, you want to not have it, but when we're doing CG, we kind of want to introduce it again, because if we introduce something like chromatic aberration, it looks more like it's filmed, which is kind of like, sort of looks cinematic. So let's add a transform. So you can just make this ourselves. There's not a preset effect for it. Let's make it transform. Put this transform to only work on red. So let's turn off everything. Let's put it only on red. Let's make another one that's set to be only on green. And let's do the red thing. Let's take it. And let's transform the, so as you can see, if I do it a lot, you can see I'm transforming the red color of the image. I'm going to transform it just a little bit. And then the green, I'm going to transform it a little bit in a different direction. So the red is probably way too much. Okay, so I'm add some chromatic aberration. So I generally don't want to do this on the entire image. So let's do a brightness contrast. Let's do a color correct maybe. Let's so do it on our image here. Let's boost up the contrast by a ton, and let's decrease the saturation so we get a black and white image. So we're going to sort of try to kind of only keep the highlights, like the bright parts. Let's do something like that. Now let's blur it. There you blur. Just regular Gaussian. Right, something like that. Now let's use this as a mask for our effects, for our transform. All right, so let's put the transform. Let's say that we want to multiply by mask. Okay, we don't want to do that, I think. 1 second. We don't want to multiply by mask, by the way. We want to just only use it as a mask for the effect. Channel red, channel red. Okay, let's see if this actually works. Yeah, so now you can see it sort of only does it on the spaces where it's like bright. Because my idea is that this will happen more in like highlighted bright areas. Not sure if that's actually the case, but kind of makes sense, I guess, if we have something like that. Okay, I kind of think these eyes here are a little bit too red. No. Again, we could also use this maybe to sort of create the entire thing. Okay, but generally I think I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. So let's say we want to save it out. So obviously this still has, still using aces. So what you need to do is type CIO, so OCIO color space, or I think it was file transform. So we need to put our, put this to our, oh no, sorry, don't need that one. We need to use CIO color space, I think. Let's disable it over there. Now let's put this to our OCIO config. And then input space, we need to put aces CG. And then output space, we need to put output, where are we? Output sRGB. All right, so we're back. So if we go over here, you can see it looks bad. And now it looks good, even though we don't have that thing enabled. All right, so now what we could do is you could type saver. You just make a saver. So it will ask us where do we want to save our project. So let's go to our thing. So our render, let's go to comp. And we want to save it over there. Does it actually go to, yeah, so then we want to say comp, and depending on if you want this to be your final output or if you want to maybe do some stuff in edit with it, depends. Let's just make a JPEG for now. Normally you would like, if it's an intermediate, you wouldn't do something like that. You'd probably just want to render this as an EXR, but just to show that the sort of the color transform output to final output works, let's just put it like this. So highlight this and press render. Ignore that thing. Start render. Oh, and I don't want to do the entire sequence. I accidentally had it set up to do the entire sequence. Right, so let's just remove all of the frames. Let's open this with all right, so there is our comp. Obviously, this would still require some cleanup for the if this would be our final output. Like in my final comp, I had some extra stuff going on. I can maybe open it. So my final comp was a little messy, but let's have a look. So I think this was the one. You can see I did some extra stuff here as well. So I had some extra stuff. So as I mentioned before, I had the extra eye stuff that I so this was what it was looking like without the stuff moving on top of it. So then we sort of add this sort of nice layer, which I kind of really liked. And we're creating that. We're adding these volumetrics. So I did some more color correcting. In general, sort of the same idea. Also chromatic aberration. Well, now I did a resize because I rendered at slightly higher resolution than I did than full HD. So you can resize it to like a proper resolution. So yeah, well, that's it basically. Okay, so there's a couple of more things that I want to cover before we round up this whole thing. So with the eye, what I ended up doing is you can actually animate this. So that's what I did in the final scene as well. So it would sort of blink. So what you can do is you have this border width here, for example. What you can do is if you right click on something, you can put it to modify width. And you can put it to perturb, which is basically sort of like noise. If you go then to modifiers, you can see you can put up strength and wobble and speed. So if I now play, I should probably increase the strength. Wobble, speed. Okay, the speed was set to 0. Okay, and I'm not gonna. So anyway, so you can see, I should probably turn down the. So you can see you can sort of have it animate. So that's also what I did. So you can then you get more of this sort of eye blinky type thing. So if I go over here to merge, so it's probably a little bit too extreme, but let's enable it. It's not going to be real time probably, but let's see if you can see what's happening. Let's view our color first. Yeah, okay, over here it's not, okay, so this is, over here is not working, I think, properly, because, let's have a look. Okay, it's too extreme, first of all. So let's put the modifier to be much less. Yeah, okay, so that's looking okay. All right, so yeah, then you can see what's going on. Then you merge that on top. Yeah, so then you get these eyes that are sort of blinking. So kind of like that. So let's see if there's anything more that I need to discuss. So I'll also give you access in the downloads to my actual render and comp. So that one's a little bit messy, but that's going to be the actual final comp. So that's not this one, by the way. That's going to be this one here. So I'll also give you access to this one, so you can just go through it. I'll include those renders as well. So you'll have both the tutorial file and the underwater file. So as with anything, of course, the final comp here with our sort of tutorial scene, it all looks a little bit different than my final render. But the thing is just with the with stuff like this, of course, you just need to keep tweaking it to make it look exactly the same. But yeah, I would love to see what you guys come up with stuff like this. Like if you make your own underwater scene or something that uses well, these techniques, or anything else that you do inside of Houdini, would love to see it. So a couple of other things I also need to discuss. So what I do in my final scene, you can see there's a couple of things that are being, so I have mats here. You can see, but they're actually just being loaded as EXRs. Oh, you can see this is still the old version of the mat. Let me just reload the proper one. That one had a little bug. Something like that. So you can see I did it as ESR. So what I did is with the wherever I use a crypto mat, I use a saver to save it out and then load it back in. The reason why I do that is for some reason Fusion seems to bug out whenever you do like whenever you have like, for example, crypto mats being loaded and then extracting a mat from it. It will sometimes just jump and select more stuff, and you get really weird looking stuff. I'm not sure what's up with that. I think it's just something weird inside of Fusion. But again, so with crypto mats, if you have a sequence that you want to use, what you generally just do is you just generate a mat with your crypto mat, and then you put a saver after that, and then you just save it out as sort of an intermediate thing, and then you load it back in. So that's what I do there, for example. See, that's what I did here. So this comes from the crypto mat. I do that basically everywhere. So yeah, that concludes the compositing part of the thing. Okay, so there's one more thing that I want to cover. Actually recorded this after I already finished recording all of the other stuff. But one more thing that I want to cover is I have these cleaned up versions of both the tutorial comp and my main comp here. So these will be in the downloads. And then you can also see I just cleaned it up and laid it out a little bit better. But I want to show you about relinking some of these stuff, because of course all of these things are pointed towards my my own drive, which obviously is pretty useless to you. But I wanted to show you that actually all of the nodes inside of Fusion, you can actually just copy something. So I can copy these nodes and then I can go into a text editor, for example, Sublime Text, which I've been using before in this course, but you can actually paste the entire node structure in here. So you can see now we get this entire big node structure. So what you could do is you could go to find and then replace, and now you could say that you want to replace my project directory. So this is my submerged tutorial folder. You could say I want to replace this string with maybe your own drive path. Let's say C / or something like that. And I go to replace all. You can see now it replaced all of that stuff with C drive. So then I can copy all of this stuff again and I can paste it in. And now you can see all of this will be linked up to the new path. So that's how you could relink all of this stuff if you want to check that out for yourself. Of course, inside of Houdini, it's much more straightforward. You can just replace the project directory in the shot setup HDA that I've provided, which again you can check out these the folder structure video for that. But yeah, that about wraps everything up. So yeah, so I have 2 more videos for you, and then we're completely done. So I have one more video in which I'm just gonna sit in front of the camera again and just wrap up the whole thing and talk a little bit about what we learned and just some pointers and just some unscripted extra stuff. And then I have another one after that, which is just an extra, which just shows the entire process of making this shot. So like earlier versions of it, and just me rambling a little bit about how you get to a production shot, because of course you don't, like Rome isn't built in a day, you don't really build something like this overnight, and just thought that would make for an interesting extra video. That video is available to everyone, by the way, so not just the higher tier Patreon stuff. So yeah, anyway, so let's move into the last 2 videos. So I really hope you enjoyed everything up until now. So let's continue.